Alright, so here is something that's kind of rare. Um, it's called the Jeremiah uh, bullfrog lie. See, after 70 years, he said he was going to come back and fight Elam. But really, in honesty, a lot of people wanted the women to go to war for them in a sense, saying if it was me, I'd do it, right? Well, what it does is it creates a certain kind of situation where a girl is actually fighting somehow for this thing that kind of like nobody understands. So, and it doesn't actually work after a while because they'll start demanding um, that they get some sort of, I don't know, if you want to call it restitution, I guess, whatever. But they filled it with drugs. So the other makeup, where is it? This one. I have the Maybelline thing right here. Not the Maybelline, which tricks them on vet day, if you want to call it, with the Mary Magdalene box type alabaster box. But the other one, where it's called like kind of like Wet and Wild. Why is it the cheapest makeup? Because basically they show that one side is totally wet. Like they're wet with whatever it is, and then everyone's not the sun, Nas, everything, and then the other side they do they call them animals or something like that. So in 2019 there came out a quarter, I don't remember what state it was. It's an actual bat. It's a bat that is carrying a baby, that because when bats carry their babies look right up at them. And they're like, when I look at you, I see myself. You know? And that's how that happened. But they hated that because what it is, it's like, okay, so I have to move out, so the son-in-law has to move in. I have to ask those questions. I have to be fucking retarded while they're basically doing the animal side on one, but the other side's completely wet. So I have to move out so that the sister-in-law can move in, type thing. And you get this kind of horrible shit happening where it is. And I'm going to explain something to you before I go into this. We know that one of the Michael things became like a really bad one. Okay? On the whatever grams that they gave him. Like it kind of like talked like it was like the most horrible thing in the world, right? So, the other one is something that nobody really ever talks about. And I think it's online. It's a guy that's running around and these ranchero guys talking to him and stuff like that. And basically they like hollow the person out and they run a bad Daniel. Well, I've met 4 of them. No, 5 of them. And it's not my ex's brother. It's a random one that's out there. That's a Danny Poodle, and these guys come up behind him, kind of like they know so much about like what's so bad and all that kind of stuff because they did it to one that's supposed to supposedly sew up the mouths of lions. That's why Tiger was better. But anyways, so And there's this other one where they call it like the Antony thing. But if you really keep it separated, if they're still doing that, and then one side is literally the Tony story, the Tony Montana story, where it went so far as to somebody who's not his own kid, but somehow related to maybe one of his own kids, not related, but relationship wise, calling him dad, calling him brother, and then calling him sister. Okay, and he was like, "This is crazy," because they had to do this thing where everyone's like one race, but like you'd have to go like Latin, um, black, and then Russian, then not Russian. So it just like sort of killed the economy. So now I'm going to do Jeremiah the bullfrog. So what happens is in Job, you read Job 28, then you have to go all the way to Job 29, where they're doing the Nebuchadnezzar stuff, but they used Meshach, and Abednego. So now these are the words of the letter. This is why I don't send letters. I mean, if you've had so many mailbox jerks that you can't do this, and also people that have been working at the post office, been sometimes stealing just even like nice stuff sent to people. Okay, good stuff. So it all becomes ridiculous. So this is where it supposedly talks about diviners and stuff like that. So if you read Jeremiah 29, and you can do it on your own, I'm going to tell you that like the movie, supposedly, I don't know, she called it the butterfly effect. I said Mothman, and she disagreed with me. I said it's the same fucking thing. Okay, it's the same, pretty much same freaking thing. All right, it's where basically they're supposedly in school, and the other colonial eye that was Latin died in high school. So they replay it kind of like a Jude Law story over and again. Would you show up for them if this happened? Would you? But it was all being high because they interpreted it as like school. Okay, so inside their mind, they're like, oh yeah, would I show up for a baby in a mailbox thing? And he's just fucking with them, giving them more stuff, seeing if he would really show up for them. And then he's like, oh, I would have showed up for her. I can't believe I was the hero type thing. And that's really what the story is. The original Jude Law thing is like, would you try to get him out or something like that? You know, like you might be from the country of supposedly Iran in word or something, figure of speech, supposedly Iran, but they still started doing technically on the computer. I saw that they were like, oh, Iran is funny. They kept like throwing them on the streets and stuff like that. So now, where's my other lipstick case? The Barigo, where supposedly she is like a black girl with a long neck and no hair, right? Like less hair, really short hair. And that's the other one. That one's just, I have it somewhere. That's a Maybelline one too, because like they just kind of run them around from house to house in Jippity, right? And then sometimes they're gonna say that their parents didn't like them or something and ran them away type thing. And that's because they're saying that somehow a fake law has to move in with you. Not exactly. Then they have to, then if they don't like that, then they go after people who are kind of like sister-in-laws and brother-in-laws or whatever. And then they kind of throw it on one person to fix. So why is grain important? Grain is important because, like for example, I have Quaker corn plus wheat, and those grains are basically because you can't tell what everyone is, but the grain will kind of show like what people are and why it keeps running that way. So, they do this Babylon thing, whatever. I just saw in there where, they're doing like the fox ones and stuff like that. You're gonna see later on that this is what was really kind of creepy. When I was younger, about 24 or something like that, I started seeing really bad clips, that these people, that like when they shut it off real fast, you see them as people. And maybe they'll hide the one that is actually like considered an animal. So you start freaking out like for them. The middle name thing, Ford. Okay, so the best movies with Ford are Tremor. The first Tremor shows that Edgar tried to cut off the power of it. Like he literally was gonna go cut phone lines. He was gonna fucking turn off like actual ways for it to be transmitted. And that's in the first Tremors. And then there's like a Ford pulled down into the ground, and it's a doctor, original like doctor, um, and it's singing a song, something about gold, or whatever, so that people who are, um, worried, afraid, or people that really weren't who they said they were changed their name. They changed their name, okay, intentionally for something. And that's like the Whoopi Goldberg of it. Like, so really what you find out is that they like changed their name, but they really were so focused on Beltazaring. A lot of this started happening on middle names. Yes. As being like the gap or the goat. Then the other movie is the one where they're like driving. I think it's in New Mexico and I can't remember the name of it, but like it's like where they kidnap her and put her in like a freezer. And that is definitely one too. The Plum Rule Sears one, but supposedly it's a kid in a freezer because they're gonna restart it with kind of like a Nick or a Nickelodeon type thing. So, because now I don't wish any harm or anything on anybody, but that's really what like it's kind of like something like that. It's very blurry. And one will pose. Oh, here it is. This is Plum Rule right here. Plum Rule 411, and the other one's at 400. Okay, and so like if I took Job and basically transmitted it over after I read 28, where I pull that fast one on Job 28, run to Jeremiah 29 and use it, then I'm abusing it. Because Job 29 is really, 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 really pretty. And like if I have to read it again, I will because it's very nice. But I really want to read to you. And I want you to understand this one about the Daniel one. The fourth one is bad to call or use. This is your big gray, okay? The fourth one is bad. So like because remember what I said where they had to like pretty much pretend that they were with people of different age groups to try to like flatten the curve. Doesn't matter to me because like the waters of Mariba and Massa or like whatever, like the face of people really doing it will actually turn inwards. If you watch old Reba McEntire, the oldest daughter's face started curving like a crescent moon, and this whoever it was that was doing the Mariba waters was becoming like an Ebola spirit. For real, like Ebola plus coronavirus maybe, but like both. Daniel 20, and 21. All right. So, or is it in chapter 9 though? You have to be in chapter 9 to read it. Where are you? Chapter 20. There you go. So while I was speaking and praying, confessing my sin and the sin of the people in Israel, presenting my supplication before the Lord, and then it jumps, doesn't tell you what he was doing exactly, except that he started redoing it again twice. And then and supposedly this man named Gabriel. Well, Gabriel was the one that told Mary she was pregnant, and it's all off. There's a Jeremiah bullfrog in one of those, and then it's a lie. Now, oh, there's people here. But this is probably the easiest way I can make people understand. So now I'm going to say Elam. Elam is a good guy when they keep doing the pyramid one. So that would be Plumberry Go. People keep using the Scorpion King, all that kind of stuff. Elam actually becomes stronger. Like I get stronger actually because they call them, they want girls to fight for them. And then sometimes you get like the guys that dress up like sort of like females or something like that to fight against them. The robot one is very sad for me, I guess, because it's like they have to master making people fall away, but then at the same time they master them to fall away in heart. They try to do that, like for example, middle word for I love you phrase is the love is the middle word. So they'll try to like basically middle 8 on that one. I'll give you another example. My grandmother had 7 kids, right? She wanted to use the natural root from India to basically, prevent pregnancies, and they somehow interpret that with that exorcist movie as being something bad, or there was a biological warfare thing going on. So if you do my grandmother, who was like stunning, she is like Megan Fox. She's like really pretty person. At the same time, you're looking at her 7 kids plus I think that one chick had 8 kids, an 8-tuplet out of nowhere, and my grandmother's dead or something like that. So they started doing it on people that were like half Catholic and half Mason because of something that was going on back then. And my grandpa was good with German shepherds, and there were a couple dogs he didn't like, and so a lot of people would drink hydrogen peroxide. Hydrogen rocks, not the rock side. And it's good for infections and stuff like that, but really that's what it was. And for teeth and stuff like that, dentists and stuff like that, before it got all crazy and they were doing smash mouth, that's wrong. That's wrong. I've like gotten into so many fights about it. I was like, yeah, but you don't know who it is or whatever. You're just assuming, blah, 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 because it is difficult. Oil of oregano is 100% concentrated. It's so good naturally.